Hi folks, I'm back with another video. This time it's just going to be a real short one, and it's just how I set my Erlbacher circular sock knitting machine up to knit, and we do that using something called a set-up bonnet. And the set-up bonnets come two different ways. They can come with split rings, and this is a set-up bonnet here with split rings, and these are little metal rings on here. And the other way they come, instead of the little metal rings, there are little yarn loops instead of these metal rings. So that's just one way, a set-up bonnet of setting these machines up. There's other methods, other ways, but I'm not going to talk about them today. My name's Patty. I have a Etsy shop. It's called Moonshadow Woolens. I make socks on my Erlbacher knitting machine and sell them on Etsy. I also sell them at craft fairs and at a local gift shop. So again, this video is just a little short one on how I set my machine up using a split ring setup bonnet. So for women's socks, I always do something called a 3x1 scallop top sock for the cuff of the sock. And to do that, I will take out every fourth needle. So I'm going to just lift these guys up, every fourth needle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoop, wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. Take them out, and that 3x1 scallop top sock. What that does is I have one stitch will be purled, and then I'll have 3 knit stitches, 1 purl, 3 knit, 1 purl, blah, blah. Okay, so I got to go all the way around, and I can't lift needles up with the yarn carrier in the way, so I got to move that yarn carrier around. Okay. All right, get these needles out of the way, and then I can put on my setup bonnet. So I move my setup bonnet over here, and so for some of you that aren't familiar with the CSMs, circular sock knitting machines, we have them split up in quarters or in quadrants, and we have them marked, and you can see the red marks on my machine. So up at the top of the machine, farthest away from me is noon. Over to my right is 3 o'clock, so it looks like a clock. Down here, closest to me is 6 o'clock. Over here to my left is 9 o'clock. And these red marks here, you can see them here, and you can see them up here. They help me do my toes and heels. They're like markers, when I should start and when I should stop. Okay, so I got my little setup bonnet, and I'm going to put it in the middle of my machine, and I'm going to try to keep my hands out of the way, but it's really hard. And what I'm going to do is take those metal rings, and I'm going to put them on the first and third needles. When I get around to this side, you'll be able to see better. And I love using the split rings. It's so much faster than using the setup bonnets that just use yarn loops. When you use you're going to see how much faster. I just pop them right on. Boom, boom, boom. If you use the yarn loops, you got to use this tool, and you've got to loop your yarn over like one at a time. Takes forever. And I sell my socks, and so I got to make socks fast. And so I'm going to set my machine up the fastest way. And there's some controversy over the split rings. People say, oh, they destroy your needles. If you don't do it right, yeah, they're going to destroy your needles. You're going to bind up your needles and break them. And these needles here that are in the machine, here's a needle right here. This needle here is $1. So, and we buy them in packs of 50. That's how they come. So you buy a pack of 50 needles, it's $50. And it's machined, and it has this little teeny tiny latch. And that's why it's $1 each. So when you breaking your needles or bending them or destroying them, it can be expensive. So I've got my setup bonnet, and I can put my setup bonnet and, you know, whole thing in seconds. Whereas if I had the yarn loops, I'd be going one at a time. It's too slow. All right, so I'm going to thread my machine. So I'm going to move my camera up so you can see how I thread the machine. There we go. Okay. All right. Okay. So got a slot here. Put it in the slot. I had a little wire under the wire. Got another slot under the wire, through another slot. Bring it down. Okay, I'm going to bring the camera back down. So you can see what I'm doing. Okay, and then I got to go in a slot here. And if your machine doesn't have slots, I recommend you contact Erlbacher. Get slotted yarn carriers, slotted yarn mast, everything. It just makes things a lot easier. Because if you don't, you make a mistake. The only way to get yourself out of a mistake is to cut your yarn. And if you're doing pattern yarn, you're going to destroy your pattern. So the secret to using this split ring setup bonnet and not destroying your needles is to exert downward pull. Like you can see I'm pulling. Okay, if you don't do that, you will bind up your needle. Okay, so I'm taking this tail, and there's my hand under here, my fingers. I'm going to grab this green setup bonnet and the yarn at the same time, and pulling down. Okay, drop it down. Okay, and I see that it's caught in the first needle. Okay, and then I'm going to move my hand around and pull down. Move on around slowly. And if you bind up on one, do your best to, you can flip that ring over and get it off your needle. But don't manhandle it and try to get over that needle. You'll break the needle. And I overlap. Notice how these guys have already been threaded, these needles. And I got lots more split rings. I usually just use them all up. You don't have to, but I do. So again, see, I'm pulling down. And I'm doing 2 at a time. You can't see behind my hand, but I'm doing 2 at a time. And this white yarn that I'm threading the machine with is waste yarn, junk yarn. Is not my working yarn. Okay. So I've got 1 row around already, so I don't want to hang on to this the whole time, so I'm going to put some weight on. And this here is a buckle, and you have a 50-50 chance of putting it on correctly, but this is how I do it. Okay, there's, if you flip it over, it'll go up or it'll go down. Okay, I hold it in my hand, okay, and let it drop down, okay. All right, because what I'm doing is I'm going to put my green setup bonnet through here. Okay, just stuff it through that hole. Okay, and all right, and then my weight stack. I use a weight stack. It's 5 pounds. The 2 big ones at the bottom are 2, and the 1 little one at the top is a 1 pounder. There are people that go, oh no, you shouldn't use 5 pounds. Well, there's plenty of videos on YouTube that show 5 pounds. There's one person that's adamant you should never use 5, you should only use 4. Well, this is how I make my socks. And with anything, any hobby, There's 1,000 experts, and everybody thinks that their way is right. I choose to use 5 pounds. That's how I make my socks. And if you want to experiment, when you make a pair of socks, make one with 5 pounds, make one with 4 pounds, and see how you like the weave and the texture of your knitted fabric. And you decide. All right, so we're just going to go around. Look, no bound up needles, no bound up rings. Easy peasy. Okay? People that say that they destroy needles, they were never taught how to do it correctly. All right, and that's it. I'm ready to knit a sock. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.